Hello, Master Gitu Yuot. It's Friday, August 19th. This is Africa 54.
Angola's high-stakes presidential election is set for August 24th. Will the expected tight race be decided by frustrated young people? Raila Odinga appears ready to challenge the validity of the Kenyan presidential election results in the nation's Supreme Court. And in our entertainment report, Heather Maxwell features the Playing for Change Foundation.
The stakes are high in Angola as voters head to the polls on August 24th in what is likely to be a tense standoff between a ruling party in power for nearly 5 decades and an opposition with growing appeal to a frustrated, impoverished youth. The MPLA, led by João Lourenço since 2017, has governed Africa's second biggest oil producer since independence from Portugal in 1975. But long-time opposition party UNITA is stronger than ever as anger grows at government failures to convert vast oil wealth into better living conditions for all. As Angola holds its fifth multi-party election since the first in 1992, half of Angolans live in poverty and more than half of those under 25 are unemployed, facts which UNITA hopes to capitalize on in promising a change of regime. Also, half of the voters are under 35. For more on next week's election in Angola, I'm joined by a VOA managing editor, Alvaro Andrade. Alvaro, welcome to Africa 54.
My pleasure.
Now, what tops the list of demands from Angolan voters for the incoming president?
Like you say, besides this, the rich country, but with a majority of population poor, and the control of the government and the economy by the ruling party for 47 years is a big dilemma in Angola. During the campaign, we have done many reports with women, with students, with even children, with teachers, and employment. The official unemployment rate is over 30%, but the official unemployment rate, just the official, but we suppose it's more than 50% in Angola. Health improvement, many people die to the lack of access to the health facilities. More schools, thousands of children do not have access to school, but many activists and political parties and observers also point to an end of the ruling party control of the state. They control everything, especially the press.
We're talking about people who are impoverished in this election, and most of them are going to be young voters.
Yes.
What really concerns them right now? Look at Angola. This is the second, largest oil producer in the continent. Why are they poor?
They're poor because the corruption is one of, I forgot to mention the corruption, because the government, Angola had a long a civil war, but there are now 20 years of peace statement now, but the government didn't invest in the people. The government created big companies, and those companies are controlled by the government, by the minister, by a lot of people only on the government. And they didn't develop Angola. Just create a company and some exportation and some import some stuff to sell. Not create a school, not create the hospital. You have to go outside the hospital, outside Angola, to get a good health attendance.
Alvaro, right now the race is very tight between the incumbent president and the opposition. But who is leading in the opinion polls, and who is the most popular and why?
There are no credible polls in Angola, but observers believe that the MPLA, in power since 1975, will win because he controls everything. He controls the press, he controls the money. The UNITA leader said they had no money to can compete with the MPLA in the different province. Remember, Angola is 30 million people, 40 million voters, a lot of people. The opposition can go around Angola to attract the people because there is no money. Right. And they control, because they control the armed forces, they control the school, they control even the government. It's the big employer in Angola. All people work for the government has to vote in the MPLA. Right. It's so hard for the opposition win in this opposition. But some observers said maybe they're going to have more balance in the parliament after the next Wednesday. On
Wednesdays, okay, right. Thank you so much, Alvaro.
You're welcome.
Alvaro Andre is managing editor for VOA's Portuguese service. Angola is set to start talks with the European Union to enter a regional trade bloc in a move that could help the Southern African country diversify away from oil. Lorraine Anthony has more.
Angola and the European Union are set to start talks for a trade deal this year, according to an EU document and an official. The green light to start negotiations, which would see Angola join a regional trade bloc, came in late July, according to the EU document, shortly before a general election next week. The possible deal would likely increase Angolan exports to the EU, potentially reducing the dominance of oil, which currently accounts for nearly all exports by value. Products such as frozen shrimps, ethyl alcohol, wheat bran and bananas are likely to benefit the most, thanks to the expected lifting of tariffs, according to EU estimates. An EU spokesperson said they're in a position to open negotiations, but a date has not been agreed with Angola. The Angolan government had no immediate comment. Most Angolan exports to the EU already benefit from preferential treatment because the country is classed as a least developed nation. But thanks to its recent oil-fueled economic growth, the Southern African country is set to lose that status in 2027. That means it would face tariffs on several products, unless it joins the regional trade agreement that the EU signed with 6 Southern African countries in 2016. Under that deal, EU products will also access the Angolan market with lower duties, an advantage for local consumers, but a risk to domestic industries if they do not invest to remain competitive.
That was Lorraine Anthony of Reuters reporting. Kenya's former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is challenging the validity of the results of a closely fought election that saw his rival William Ruto declared president-elect. As the battle moves to Kenya's Supreme Court, political and legal experts weigh in on Odinga's claims of voter fraud. Juma Majanga reports from Nairobi.
In the wake of Kenyan elections, current Deputy President William Ruto was declared president-elect after earning 50.5% of the votes. But his main rival, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who received 48.9% of the votes, has refused to concede. The fight now shifts to the country's highest court, where Odinga and his Azimio la Umoja One Kenya alliance hope to overturn the results. Odinga is alleging voter fraud, and legal experts say the court will be looking at the evidence.
You must appreciate that to subvert or sabotage the will of the people is both criminal and borders on treason. It is extremely serious. But that is just what is being said on media.
There must be tangible or material discrepancy. The same must be proved satisfactorily, and it must be demonstrated that it would have changed the outcome of the case. If those 3 ingredients do not line up, then you are unlikely to be successful.
4 of the 7 election commissioners, all of them appointed by Odinga ally President Uhuru Kenyatta, have disowned the presidential results by the commission's chairperson Wafula Chebukati. Lawyers say that will provide impetus to a petition challenging the outcome, even as local observers under the umbrella of Elections Observation Group give the poll a clean bill of health.
When you look at the Constitution of Kenya, the commission means the commissioners. And also the commission can mean the commissioners and the secretariat. But you agree that neither the commissioners nor the secretariat can do anything unless they are assisted by the entire staff. So there's nobody really left out.
We have not seen anything that would warrant a petition of this nature. However, we remain open to the fact that there could be something.
The Kenyan constitution allows anyone to challenge the presidential election outcome at the Supreme Court within 7 days of the announcement of the results. Such a petition will be heard and a verdict issued within 14 days of filing. If the Supreme Court upholds the outcome, the new president is sworn in on the 7th day after the verdict. If the election is nullified, a repeat election is conducted within 60 days after the verdict. Kenyans' views vary about Odinga's decision to challenge the election outcome.
A lot of irregularities and irregularities. Yeah, so we go back to election or we recount it.
We are urging the court this time to give justice. And justice we mean, if somebody won the election, just give him his victory. Don't tell us again to go back to elections, because this will be now taking us back.
Kenya has been lauded for conducting a fairly peaceful election so far. As the battle over the validity of the results moves to the highest court, Kenyans are hopeful that peace will prevail. Juma Majanga for VOA News, Nairobi.
The disputed Ethiopian area of Western Tigray is expected to be a sticking point in the country's peace talks aimed at ending the nearly 2-year civil war. Forces allied with the federal government took control of the area, but Tigrayan forces say it must be returned for talks to move forward. Henry Wilkins reports from Adi Rametz.
In the disputed region of Western Tigray, local officials led VOA into the hills close to the town of Adi Rametz. They claim this was the site of a concentration camp run by the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or the TPLF, in the late 80s and early 90s. One witness says he was held in this cave along with many other Amharas, the TPLF persecuted because of their ethnicity decades ago.
I have known this place since the 80s. I was arrested here for 1 year and 7 months with my friend. We stayed here in the cave during daylight hours to avoid air raids.
The history of Western Tigray, or Welkayet, as the Amhara regional government refers to it, is complex. Amhara forces wrestled control of Western Tigray from the TPLF during the current conflict that began in November 2020, claiming the TPLF wrongly annexed the region in the early 90s and that historically the region has always belonged to them. They urged the government to make it a legal part of Amhara. As peace talks to put an end to Ethiopia's nearly 2-year civil war look more likely, both the Amhara and Tigray regional leaderships say the region must be put under their control. Analysts say it will play a crucial role in negotiations.
This is what we describe as a zero-sum dispute at Crisis Group, and this is why it's such a hard problem to resolve. I think we can all come up with sort of potential compromise solutions, joint administration, local autonomy, federal administration, but simply getting to the stage where that sort of compromise political arrangement is accepted by the two regions is hard to conceive of at the moment.
Experts say any historical claim by the Amhara is irrelevant since Ethiopia's constitution states Western Tigray is part of the Tigray region.
Ethiopian constitution doesn't allow for that historical claim. Yeah, because this is endless. Because you change. If I've seen these maps through time, every 50 years these borders were changing. Yeah, so what historical claim are you going to look at? What are you going to consider?
Researchers from the University of Gondar are seen here pulling bones out of the ground they claim belong to prisoners killed at the camp during TPLF rule. Many ethnic Amharas, they say, believe such alleged evidence of past atrocities show why the region should be under their control. But the Amhara region-based university's research into the graves has been criticised by experts. Critics say the federal government has used the graves as propaganda and question the timing of old graves, coinciding with new allegations of ethnic cleansing committed against Tigrayans during the current war. Independent researchers have not been given access to these sites. Asked if the university uses forensic techniques to piece together what happened at the grave sites, a former researcher now working at a non-profit documenting abuse against ethnic Amharas said,
I'm hopeful that this will happen in the future, but at this point, It's just mapping the mass graves where they're located.
Since the Amhara occupied Western Tigray in early 2021, rights groups such as Human Rights Watch and Amnesty say Tigrayans are being attacked and forcibly removed from the region. A TPLF spokesperson declined to comment on how the fate of Western Tigray could factor into peace talks. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Adi Ramitz, Ethiopia.
Renowned Somali author and poet Mohammed Ibrahim Warsame, better known by his pen name Hadrawi, died Thursday at 79 in the Somaliland capital Hargeisa, according to family members. He was widely regarded as the greatest living Somali poet and called the Shakespeare of Somalia. Warsame had battled illness for years that left him hospitalized. Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud expressed the country's sorrow, saying, quote, "We have lost an icon in Somali literature." August 19th is United Nations World Humanitarian Day, a day set aside to honor aid workers worldwide and to pay tribute to those who have died or have been injured in their efforts to help those in the greatest need. The UN says that over the past year, 141 aid workers died around the world doing their jobs. Most of them were from the countries in which they died. Hundreds more have been attacked. In Sudan, Sarah Nyanti, the UN humanitarian coordinator, says 5 aid workers have been killed this year, all of them South Sudanese. Still to come in our entertainment report, Heather Maxwell tells us about the Playing for Change Foundation. We'll be right back.
Home is more than just shelter. A private place to raise children and a private space to process your inner feelings and thoughts. Regardless of where you live, access to affordable housing is always a leading conversation in the society. This week, we are taking a closer look at how accessible affordable housing is in Africa and how women are breaking barriers in the real estate market. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
From around the world, let's go.
In other African news, rising prices and a fast depreciating currency is pushing many Zimbabweans to the brink, reminding people of when the Southern African country faced world record inflation of 5 billion% in 2008. The World Health Organization is recommending 2 monoclonal antibody treatments against Ebola. It says the use of such drugs combined with better care has revolutionized the treatment of a disease once seen as a near-certain killer. And a civil defense official says Algerian wildfires, which killed at least 38 people and left a trail of destruction in the country's northeast, are now contained. Hostage negotiations are a delicate test in diplomacy and are handled at the highest levels of the U.S. government. The White House recently clarified its stance on this issue, but does this come in time for the release of several high-profile hostages held overseas? VOA's Anita Powell reports from Washington.
The White House faces constant pressure from more than 60 American families whose relatives are held hostage overseas, including one whose family is marking 10 years without him. Austin Tice has been missing in Syria since August 2012. He's been missing longer than any other American journalist. Syria's government denies holding him, which the State Department refutes. State Department spokesman Ned Price.
We believe, to this very day, that Syria still has the power to release Austin Tice. That is why we are calling on the Syrian regime to do just that.
But hostage situations are rarely straightforward and often escalate to the highest levels of government. Earlier this year, President Joe Biden's administration oversaw a prisoner swap for the release of Trevor Reed, a former Marine held since 2019 in Russia. Last month, after basketball star Brittany Griner appeared in a Russian court on drug charges, the administration refined its hostage policy, allowing agencies to impose sanctions and visa bans on both state and non-state actors who are holding Americans. Those campaigning to free Tice welcomed these changes and are calling on Biden to act. The leader of the campaign told VOA that the Syrian government, in a 2020 meeting with U.S. officials, indicated they are seeking a reduction in U.S. troops in Syria, sanctions relief, and limited diplomatic engagement in Washington and Damascus. Bill McCarran heads the Free Austin Tice campaign and also leads the National Press Club of Washington, D.C. He spoke to VOA on Zoom.
Now what needs to happen is an offer needs to be put on the table, and it is the United States that needs to do that. That is where the ball is right now.
But those who have worked in the West Wing say patience is essential. Philip Bobbitt, now a law professor, was working at the White House on January 20th, 1981, as President Ronald Reagan was being sworn in, and Iran's supreme leader released 52 U.S. hostages after 444 days.
The president has to have confidence in his negotiators. If he tries to jiggle their elbow to get the hostages back with more dramatic threats or with more dramatic concessions, he'll really, even if he succeeds in the instant case, make things more difficult for the United States when hostages are taken again in the future. So he has to find negotiators in whom he has confidence, give them a charter, and keep steadily to that.
But for families, this process can be excruciating and can still fail. Diane Foley learned that 8 years ago this week. Her son James, a journalist, had been kidnapped 9 months earlier in Syria by a militia group loyal to Syria's president. On August 19th, the captors released a chilling video showing Foley. He'd been decapitated. Foley's mother said she welcomed the changes that have been made since. She spoke to VOA as she prepared to travel to Virginia for the sentencing of one of the men convicted in her son's kidnapping and murder.
There's definitely been progress, Anita. I really feel there is. In 2015, the Hostage Recovery Fusion Cell was created, the Special Envoy, and the whole hostage enterprise. When Jim was in captivity, there was no such thing. So at least we have people accountable for the return of Americans. So there's definitely a heightened awareness at the highest levels of our government.
McCarran argues that the Foley family's path to justice shows that the U.S. government isn't playing a zero-sum game.
This is not a question of you can either get the hostage out or you can hold the person accountable by justice. You can do both things. You can do both things. And that's what I think the rigidity of the U.S. policy does not allow for.
But for the families of Griner, Whelan, and dozens of other Americans held overseas, the request to the White House is constant, unwavering, and simple. Bring them home. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
It's time for Entertainment Report, and Heather Maxwell joins us now with details on the Playing for Change Foundation. Hello, Heather.
Hello, Esther. Hello, everyone. Yes, the Playing for Change Foundation is doing amazing things in Africa, especially in Uganda, Ghana, and Mali. Earlier this week, I caught up with some folks in a virtual three-way chat to find out more.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thomas Duncan, you are there in northern Uganda. Can you introduce the guys behind you?
We're here with one of the leaders of the Aslam Arts Program, Victor Aluwanzi.
And Alidu.
Yeah.
You are in Tamale, Ghana?
Yes.
So, Thomas, explain to everybody why we're all together right now on this Zoom call.
So the Playing for Change Foundation has partnered with an amazing organization that is refugee-led within the refugee settlement in northern Uganda called Sina Loketa. We co-created a music program with them, which Victor is one of the principal teachers. And just last week, we had a residency with Malian musicians in Ghana. And then I accompanied Muhammad Alidu to northern Uganda for him to visit the music program here to exchange Ghanaian culture with Ugandan and South Sudanese culture. And it was such an incredible experience. and seeing how everyone is working to build cohesion and peace through music.
So Victor, can you give us a demonstration of some of the kind of music that you are working to preserve there in Uganda?
We cry for peace in our nation. We cry for love and unity.
Let's get to Alidu now. He's patiently waiting there now in Tamale, Ghana. The birds singing in the background. I have been up to your school in Tamale, the Bisum School of Music and Dance. Tell us how it's all going there.
It's going great, like as you said, the music program in Tamale now, and we did show a festival for the Playing for Change Day, and that actually brings a lot of attention to Tamale, for our community people to see, because the musicians from Mali it was very great impact for our community, because some people never see Kora live before. Find it with our own music, our traditional music, and the gonje, and see the balafon, and to have that at the King Palace was mind-blowing, and our community are very, very happy to realize that music brings us together next to our next door neighbors.
That is just amazing. So we've got in northern Uganda, the work is very important, especially for the refugee camp. And then over in northern Ghana, the music is bringing back, I guess we would call it the culture of the royalty and the music that surrounds that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's it. We're preserving the culture that we've also been lost in, because when you look at Mali, between Mali and Ghana and the northern Ghana, we have so much in common that they have histories that we also have it in our talking drums. But without interpreting with each other, we have no idea knowing that. So it's like bringing back the old culture that we have lost, the part that we have lost, to connect back.
Everyone, and Thomas, thank you so much for joining me. Best of luck. I can't wait to hear and see what more is going to come out of Playing for a Change Foundation there and elsewhere.
Thank
you so much, Heather.
Thank you, Heather. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Bye. All right, and that's our entertainment report for today. Esther, back to you.
Heather, thanks. You can watch Heather Maxwell's entertainment report every Friday right here on Africa 54. And that's our show this Friday. We invite you to watch Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.